Earlier when we talked about the telegraph and in the milestones video, we mentioned that layering was established by the telegraph, and we brought up these three layers. The information layer, which contains the actual content of a message, the coding layer, which has to do with the symbols that we translate the message into, and then the signaling layer, which is that layer in which the actual physical transfer of that communication follows. We're going to look a little more deeply into layers now, and first let's define it. Layering is breaking that communication process down into its component steps. Now, if you think about speaking or writing, the post office system, the telephone system, you realize that there are always lots of steps that occur. For example, if I send a letter, there's a step of actually writing it. There's a step of addressing it. There's a step of getting it to my mailbox. It goes to the post office, goes from one post office to another, and so on. And then we undo the whole process backwards again to get it to the destination. That's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about layering. This layering must, though, provide several parts, and if those parts are missing, then we just don't have communication. Let's look at those parts. There are 4 of them we want to look at. No, excuse me, 5 of them we want to look at. The first is that the layers must support user information and, I should say, and or commands. So in other words, there are really a couple of different things that we need to do when we speak from one computer system to another computer system. We either need to send information, that is to say data, back and forth from one computer to another, or we might be remote controlling the other computer, and so we need to be able to send control commands back and forth between systems. So that has to be included in our layers. Another thing our layers must provide for us is some sort of segmentation and then reassembly. So in other words, that information that we're going to send has to be chunked up into small sections and then put back together at the other end. The layers must also have some way of identifying the source and the destination. Otherwise, it wouldn't know where to send the message. And when the message got there, it wouldn't know where to return the reply if there's a response needed. Fourthly, it has to have some way of checking for errors and correcting for them. In some cases, it will just drop it, and then there will be some other mechanism for resending. But in other cases, there's actually a correction capability that goes on. But if we can't detect these errors, then we have a problem with our communication. So we need at least the ability to detect these errors. Finally, the last one is signaling. So these layers have to provide for us some means by which we can physically send information from one point to another point. That could be through some sort of wireless medium, or it could be through some wired medium. So it doesn't matter which way we go, but those layers have to provide for that. So now we're going to begin to look at the current layer model in the next video, called the OSI model.